Yeah, it's definitely Eubank, because if I don't do Eubank next, that ship sailed. So it has to be Eubank next. If it's not Eubank, then
Conor Benn isn't hiding his emotions. He's laser-focused, burning with one mission: getting Chris Eubank Jr. back in the ring. For Benn, this rematch isn't just a fight, it's redemption. If it doesn't happen now, he believes the story will remain unfinished, his chance to set the record straight, slipping through his fingers. It's Eubank or nothing. Yet behind all the passion, a hard truth looms. Eubank already beat him once, and convincingly. Many believe history will repeat itself. Eubank's superior ring.
You think you won the fight?
I do think I nicked the fight. I wouldn't have minded it going either way. You know, for the
IQ, timing, and composure were on full display in their first encounter. When the dust settled, it was Eubank standing tall, reminding everyone why he's still one of the most dangerous men in the division. But Benn has fired back defiantly. He insists he did enough to win, calling the judges' scorecards outrageous. While he concedes the bout was close, his belief in victory reveals a painful gap. He may not fully grasp the level required to beat someone of Eubank's caliber.
You know, Conor come back, he'd be a better fighter. You know, we've got a lot to go back. Well, not a lot to go back, just to be able to take his...
Eubank didn't just win, he controlled, dictated, and exposed the difference in class. Nigel Benn, Conor's father and former world champion, was far more scathing in his response. He called the result a flat-out robbery, claiming his son had an off night and still did enough to win. He blasted Eubank Jr. as a paper champion, arguing the fight was set up against his son from the start. For Nigel, the real fight hasn't even begun. He's calling for an immediate rematch, vowing that
And he's like, I said, mate, I'm so proud of you. That was unbelievable. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I know you lost, but like you come up 2 weight classes, you fought a much bigger guy, you've been out for 14 months, you gave it.
Fully focused Conor will demolish Eubank the next time around. Emotions are boiling over, and with pride and legacy on the line, this rivalry is getting hotter by the day. Promoter Eddie Hearn echoed the sentiment that the rematch isn't just important, it's inevitable. He praised Conor's courage in stepping up not just 1, but 2 weight divisions to take on the challenge. Hearn applauded Benn's grit and heart, but also admitted the brutal truth. Chris Eubank Jr. was operating on a different level that night. From the opening bell, Eubank's timing...
Like, we'll decide whether we do the rematch or drop down to the natural weight 147 and fight for the world title.
Composure and surgical precision shut down Benn's aggression. It wasn't just a win. It was a clinical display of elite ring generalship. Now, with global attention and unfinished business, Hearn knows the rematch could be even bigger than the first. Tony Sims, Benn's trainer, is adamant that the judges got it wrong. From his vantage point, Benn was the one pressing the action, landing the more telling shots and showing greater urgency. Sims didn't mince words. He called the decision a disgrace and insists the wrong man had his hand raised. But Sims isn't just venting. He's preparing. He sees the rematch as not just likely but necessary. With a
You saw that Junior is too big a man. These weights that they are flouting is the destroying.
Sharper, more strategic approach, Sims believes Benn can flip the script. Yet even he admits that Eubank's poise and experience remain the biggest threats to their redemption mission. Chris Eubank Sr., never one to hold back, took a more philosophical stance. He dismissed the entire fight as a mismatch, pointing to Benn's extreme weight cut as irresponsible and damaging to the sport. In his eyes, it was never a fair contest, not because of foul play, but because of the glaring difference in class and preparation. He praised his son's professionalism, physical dominance, and unshakable discipline. For Eubank Sr.,
I think there's a rematch in the contract, so yeah, there's no doubt that they'll run that one back and do it all over again.
Jr. delivered a masterclass, one that no hype, strategy, or pre-fight talk from Benn could undo. Harlem Eubank, cousin to Chris Jr., was even more blunt. He ridiculed Benn's brashness before the fight and claimed the loss was a reality check that exposed Benn's lack of focus and discipline. Harlem believes Benn was undone the moment the first bell rang, not because of nerves, but because he simply wasn't on the same level. Now, with talk of a rematch already heating up, Harlem is confident history will repeat itself. He sees the second fight as an...
Say that, Frank, but there's a contractual rematch and he'll have to get to 160 again.
Yeah, but that's if he fights. If he can't get to 160, then how are they going to do it? If he gets to 160, they'll do it.
But opportunity to silence all doubt and reinforce Chris Jr.'s dominance. As the rematch nears, the stakes couldn't be higher. For Benn, it's about redemption, pride, and proving he belongs. For Eubank Jr., it's about legacy, dominance, and shutting the door on a rivalry some say never really existed. The build-up is boiling with tension, emotion, and anticipation. One man is desperate for vindication. The other is ready to remind the world why he's still the one to beat. This isn't over. The storm is coming. Frank Warren couldn't mask the reality, no matter how much he tried. His deflections about weight cuts, rematch clauses...
But over the moon, absolutely over the moon. To see Chris get his hand raised, and it's been a difficult camp, it's been a difficult time. I think everyone's seen the pictures, everyone's seen the stories, everyone's seen what he's had to go through. Fair play to Conor Benn because he was phenomenal as well.
And outside distractions rang hollow in the aftermath of Chris Eubank Jr.'s dominant showing. While Warren scrambled to preserve Conor Benn's reputation, the truth was unavoidable. Benn wasn't just defeated, he was exposed. The idea of dropping back to 160 pounds feels less like a strategy and more like damage control. Benn's camp appears focused on controlling the narrative, not seeking redemption. For many, it echoed the post-fight chaos that surrounded Ryan Garcia, a flurry of noise with few answers and even less momentum. Eubank didn't just win the bout, he dismantled the illusion of Benn's invincibility. Under the brightest lights, Benn's limitations became painfully obvious. What was supposed to be a clash of rivals became a one-sided display of precision, control.
I suppose all that fight really showed us last night that a good big un beats a good little un. They're good, they're not great. So Eubank wins the fight. Where he goes from here in terms of world level, I don't know, because I don't want to pour cold water.
And composure. Ben Shalom was far more direct in his post-fight reaction. Bursting with pride, he hailed Eubank Jr.'s performance as one of grit, resilience, and focus. Despite all the chaos surrounding the build-up, Eubank stepped into the ring with clarity and purpose, and he delivered. Shalom credited Ben for bringing intensity and heart, but made it clear the gulf in class was evident. Eubank, he said, was simply the superior technician. Echoing Eddie Hearn's earlier statements, Shalom called the fight one of the most intense and unpredictable battles in recent British boxing history. Yet in the end, it was Eubank who stood tall, with his hand raised and his reputation enhanced. Meanwhile, Ben was left picking up the pieces, with excuses that rang hollow.
A really good fight. I think it was a lot closer than what it was. Commend Conor Benn immensely because he put on an amazing performance. Remember, he's a welterweight. Never really boxed at world-class level at 160 or around that. Chris has more experience on the world scene than Conor has, but Conor did himself proud. I think
and a future clouded with uncertainty. This wasn't just a loss. It was a definitive moment that re-established Eubank Jr.'s place at the top. Duke McKenzie offered one of the harshest critiques, bluntly stating that Chris Eubank Jr. was on a completely different level than Conor Benn. From McKenzie's perspective, Ben simply couldn't cope with the power, sharpness, and calculated aggression Eubank brought to the ring. Their previous encounter was no fluke. It was a blueprint, and Eubank executed it again with precision. McKenzie went as far as to question whether Ben should even entertain a rematch. The gap, he argued, is just too wide. Eubank's size, experience, and elite ring IQ create a challenge that Ben, as talented as he is, may never be able to overcome. A second bout, might only...
I don't know if it was so much Conor surprised me how well he bolts because of the way Chris Eubank must have been feeling, because he was, he looked terrible on the scales. Absolutely terrible.
Confirm what the first already revealed. Eubank is a dominant force in the division, while Benn remains a level below. Johnny Nelson struck a more balanced tone. He acknowledged that the fight was closer than the judges' scorecards suggested and praised Benn's bravery for stepping up to a higher weight class. Nelson credited Benn for showing heart, grit, and a willingness to push himself in unfamiliar territory. There were moments, he said, where Benn's intensity gave Eubank problems. But in the end, Nelson noted, it was Eubank's experience at the world-class level that tilted the scales. His superior conditioning, composure, and veteran instincts allowed him to navigate the toughest rounds and maintain control. While Benn made it a real contest, Eubank's years at the top proved decisive. For Nelson, Benn leaves the fight with valuable lessons, but not a victory. Billy Nelson, however, was openly critical of both fighters. He was surprised by Benn's tenacity but unimpressed with Eubank's conditioning. Nelson pointed to Eubank's appearance on the scales, calling it terrible and suggesting he looked physically drained before the fight even began. For such a high-stakes contest, Eubank's preparation raised eyebrows. Even so, Nelson argued, Benn failed to capitalize. With Eubank looking vulnerable, the door was open for a major upset, but Benn couldn't walk through it. That, he implied, said more about Benn than it did about Eubank. The fight wasn't as one-sided as some are claiming, but it still left plenty of unanswered questions. Was Eubank truly struggling, or did Benn simply fall short? Meanwhile, Nigel Benn, never shy with his opinions, would likely see things very differently. Known for his fiery passion and unwavering loyalty, it's easy to imagine him labeling the result a robbery, defending his son's performance, and demanding immediate redemption. But even his voice, loud as it may be, can't silence the doubts now surrounding Conor's future. One thing is certain. The fight may be over, but the debate is just beginning. Eubank's victory has reshaped the rivalry, and whether a rematch materializes or not, the boxing world is still talking. What did you make of it? Was it a masterclass or a missed opportunity? Let us know in the comments below.